Okay, apparently I am recording. And this video is about phony Kamala Harris, Joe Biden's VP pick. Okay, messy Kamala. All right. And how she violated the civil rights of Mrs. Peoples and Shayla, her daughter. Now, first, would like to use Strouder versus West Virginia, where the court declared that the very fact that colored people are signaled out because of their color, though they are citizens and may be in other respects fully qualified, is practically a brand upon them, an assertion of their inferiority and a stimulant to the race prejudice, which is an impediment on securing equal justice. Okay. And I feel like Kamala Harris knows this very well. And she used that as leverage against Miss Peoples because she knew Miss Peoples had no resources to defend herself in a world where she's looked at as inferior. Okay. Based on race, based on her being a colored person, not people of color, but colored, because that's what they used to call black people. Okay. I also wanted to reference what the court found in Brown versus Board of Education. So the court found that separating students of similar age and qualifications solely because of their race generates a feeling of inferiority as to their status in the community that may affect their hearts and minds in a way unlikely ever to be undone. And the reason why I would go with that quote or the findings of the court was we heard young Shayla, Miss People's daughter, she said, Mom, they are taking it out on me because of you. They have restricted me from my therapies. Now, they did that based on what was perceived as Miss People's violating this truancy law code, right? And so now the therapeutics that they took away from her may not have been essential to her physical health, but they were damn well essential to her mental health. She was participating in the Ryan Seacrest studios, where she was able to interview a numerous amount of celebrities, and she had some type of dance um, going on with one of the celebrities or whatever. So she was enjoying her life as best as she could, being in pain. Having sickle cell anemia is a continuous, constant pain. And I know that because I worked with a man years and years ago in my teenage years. His name was Manny. He was about 6'6" or whatever, maybe 170 pounds. Strong guy. And we came across him balled up one day, like a ball. This big guy just rolled up in a ball, and he was in so much pain. And we all were crying. Nobody knew what to do. Nobody knew, understood sickle cell anemia. And I also want to say, um, if you are or you carry sickle cell trait, you want to be sure that the person you choose to procreate with does not also carry the sickle cell trait, because then you boost the chances of the child that you conceive having sickle cell anemia. And it is a painful, 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 constant torture that you would not want to see your child go through. So you need to find out if you have sickle cell trait and if the person that you plan to be with has sickle cell trait. So that way, you can decide whether you will procreate or whether you will, kind of move on, because it puts the child in a bad predicament. So that's just some information in case you didn't know. What I want to do is share my screen. Hopefully these people will not play. I want to share my screen with you guys, and I want to go over the penal code. I want us to take a look at it. Excuse me. Penal Code 270.1 or .1, Section A, failure to supervise child's school attendance. Okay, so how do you violate this? It states a parent or guardian of a pupil of 6 years of age or more who is in kindergarten or any of grades 1 to 8 inclusive and who is subject to compulsory full-time education or compulsory continuation education, whose child is a chronic truant, as defined in section 48263.6 of the Education Code, which we will also review, who has failed to reasonably supervise and encourage the pupil's school attendance, and who has been offered language, accessible support services to address the pupil's truancy, is guilty of a misdemeanor punishable by a fine not exceeding $2,000 or by imprisonment in a county jail not exceeding 1 year, or by both that fine and imprisonment. A parent or guardian guilty of a misdemeanor under this subdivision may participate in the deferred early of judgment program defined in subdivision B. Well, we're not worried about that. We are going to look at section 48263.6. And oh my gosh. Come on, ball, go up. Go up. Okay, this is section 482, 6.3. They don't know, they want 6.36. So let's go down to the bar so we could get 6.36. Where is 6.3? Right here. Okay. Says any pupil subject to compulsory full-time education or to compulsory continuation education who is absent from school without a valid excuse for 10% or more of the school days in one school year from the date of the enrollment to be the current date is deemed a chronic truant, provided that the appropriate school district officer or employee has complied with section 4862. 42. Okay, no. Okay, so basically, as long as, which we know they in fact did not, but as long as all of these penal codes and the ones that when you click on next, they'll come up some more, as long as they went step by step, notifying the parent through email or through paper mail that they need to sit down and have a meeting, allowing that parent to then present documentation, which they have to then evaluate the documentation, in which they did not. Because we heard Ms. Peoples say, as soon as she turned in her paperwork, within a couple of days, they were at her house to arrest her. Okay? And this is, again, the discrimination and the violation of due process and constitutional rights that messy Kamala, phony Kamala Harris inflicted upon Ms. Peoples. Okay? Because they had not, in fact, evaluated the paperwork that Ms. Peoples turned in, or this situation would have never occurred. Or, as Ms. Peoples suggested, Ms. Harris very well knew and was aware of all of Shayla's circumstances, but chose to use Ms. Peoples' case as leverage to boost her career. And again, the grounds on the court findings on Brown, not Brown versus Board of Education, but Strouder versus West Virginia states that colored people are targeted because they are viewed as inferior. Okay, and messy Kamala Harris, phony Kamala Harris, knew that Ms. Peoples did not have all of the resources to fight them off. So it would be easy to grab her and crush her, separate her from her children, restrict her daughter from services or, resources. Okay, when this woman should have been granted all of the services, all of the amenities, because her daughter has sickle cell anemia. And they spend a lot of time in bed. They spend a lot of time in hospitals. She also has another underlying condition that deals with, her bones or whatever. So she's went through a lot, this young girl. And all she had was those little therapies, and they stripped her of that. You cannot have children in a bed just laying there. They need mental stimulation as well. But we know that this was violated based on Ms. People's statements, right? So let's look at what she was supposed to be protected under, and then we're going to come back here too. But oh no, let me not do that. Let me stop share and then share my screen. Now, according to the 504, and that is the Rehabilitation Act of 1973, and it was amended in 1992. And I'm just going to go down to the section that I want us to focus on, but you can come back and read this. It says, this act also requires that students be given a free appropriate public education, in regular education classes with necessary supplementary aids and services if they are determined by a school team to be disabled under Section 504, which she very well was. And she also should have, Shayla should have qualified for an IEP. Not every case that receives an IEP is always because a child has ADHD or because the child has autism or Down syndrome or other learning disabilities. There are times when your child could be delayed, and it would be due to the fact that they're hospitalized or chronically ill. So there's a gap. She was not receiving services. Now, under IEP, she could have had a teacher come out. She could have had occupational therapist come out and an educator come out to keep her abreast to the educational curriculum that they were presenting to her grade, to keep her on point. Because as Ms. Peoples says, as a mom, her main responsibility is to keep her child well and alive. And that's what she was doing. And it's not that she was intentionally pulling her out of school so she can hang out with friends and go party. She was taking her out of school because her daughter needs to be hospitalized. Or her daughter was chronically ill with sickle cell anemia. So she was wrongly targeted. Now, we know that Messy Kamala had Miss Peoples paraded out in front of press. That was all set up because Miss Peoples is not a renowned actress, singer, entertainer, investor extraordinaire. So why would the media be attracted to that story other than if it was fed to them in a way to we're going to get one of these black mothers who is not responsible, who don't take care of the children, and all the other misconceptions or stereotypes that they throw at black women. Here, we got one. And what we're going to do is send somebody over to arrest her. You guys make sure you're out there so you can snap her picture. We'll take her down to the precinct, fingerprint her, mugshot her, and then we'll let her leave because basically they had no grounds to arrest her in the first place. And they damn sure didn't have any grounds to hold her on. They violated, her due process was violated because the paperwork she turned in was supposed to be evaluated before any type of arrest was made. But Kamala wanted to come up. She wanted to come up, so she didn't care what family she destroyed, how she destroyed this family. Because she doesn't like black people, allegedly, nor does she like white men, allegedly. Because every time you turn around, every white man is a white supremacist. And black issues do not matter to Kamala Harris. And I'm going to end showing you who matters to her. It's not American children. Our struggles don't matter to her. Look at how she treated this young woman with sickle cell anemia. And I know Miss Peoples wants an apology from messy, phony Kamala Harris, but you won't get it because then it would open her up for a lawsuit. She would have to acknowledge that she violated your civil rights. She violated your due process and your daughter's right to receive her therapies. Your daughter should have never gone through that. Your daughter should not have never had to suffer from a stroke because of what happened to her mother due to Kamala Harris's stupid policies. Okay, it's a disgrace what happened to her. And I showed you here where she's protected at, but I want to go back. Let me stop because I have to play this game over here. Let me share my screen again. And let's take you back to why are they gonna let me get in here? Damn it. Come on, God. No. Okay, good. Let's go back because I wanted to go to this code because I want you to think about the school to prison pipeline and how that's it. She was just strengthening it and wanted to take this nationwide. I'm trying to find the code. It's not extremely long, but it is a little long. But I'm not gonna read it all. But is this it? Nope, that's not it either. I don't think I'm on the right. Let me see. Let me go back again. And it should be on this one. These things always happen when you go live. It's always a debacle of some sorts, going on with YouTubers. It's so hilarious. Like every time you think you got everything down pat, it comes out. But I'm really disgusted by this because, she's parading around like she's for black people, she's for this, and she won't even apologize to this woman. And it's like I said, the reason why she won't apologize to her is because she opens herself up to a lawsuit. I would sue her. I would most certainly sue her. You don't get to violate my due process and my constitutional rights and get away with it and make my daughter feel as if she's inferior than to other children and other families because she's a little black girl. Okay, so let's read this. This is code 482663. If any minor pupil in any district of any county is an habitual truant or is irregular in attendance at school as identified in the article, or is habitually insubordinate or disobeying during attendance at school, the pupil may be referred to a school attendance review board or to the probation department for services if the probation department has elected to receive these referrals. The supervisor or attendants or any other persons the governing board of the school district or country may designate making a referral shall notify the minor and parents or guardians of the minor in writing of the name and addresses of the board of probation department to which the matter has been referred and of the reasons for the referral. The notice shall indicate that the pupil and parents or guardians of the pupil will be required, along with the referring person, to meet with the school attending review board or probation officer to consider a proper disposition of the referral. So we know that happened with Miss Pupils. She said she went down to the precinct. Okay, she was in a very intimidating situation where she had to speak to a probation officer, a police officer, or whatever. And she was intimidated by that situation. And that should have never happened to her because she wasn't a criminal. And she wasn't criminally keeping her daughter out of school to, participate in nonsense or whatever. She was complying with what was going on. The school knew what was going on. There's no way the girl could have been going to school there and they not have any record of her having sickle cell anemia. So it's a completely, a disgrace. It says if the school attendance review board or probation officer determines that available community service can resolve the problem of the truant or insubordinate pupil, then the board or probation officer shall direct the pupil or the pupil's parents or guardians or both to make use of those community services. The school attendance review board or probation officers may require at any time that it determines proper the pupil or parents or guardians of the pupil or both to furnish satisfactory evidence of participation in the available community services, which if you do have a child and these things are going on, you very well should comply. You should most certainly comply. You should keep documentation that you comply. But often you will find parents who go through these situations. Sometimes it's just a matter of disobedience within the teen, a rebellion, because most parents comply with this. The ones that you will find that don't comply are usually drug addicted parents. And that is of no fault of the child, is the fault of the parent and the addiction that they suffer from. So quite naturally, they are more concerned with their drug of choice, their addiction, than they are with the educational circumstances of their children. Okay, and that's a different situation. But that was not Miss Peoples' situation at all. She's a good mom. She's taking care of her kids. She's doing what she's supposed to do. Okay, I also find it very disgusting that she has to work and keep herself in a certain earning level in order for her daughter to receive the treatments. Now, now how disgusting is that? If you limit a person and you don't allow a person to obtain savings, to obtain something so that they can be sufficient, then, I don't know. And then you strip it from a girl with sickle cell anemia. You strip benefits from a child like that. And then Kamala is always going around, her along with the rest of the crazy radical group over there, always going around talking about the children, the children. How will people look at us? How will the rest of the world look? I wonder how the rest of the world will look at this messy, phony woman when they really understand the amount of hypocrisy and the amount of just underhanded, low-level bullshit that she hit this woman with. She hit Miss Peoples with and Shayla with. A disgrace. But let me continue. Because here's the part that I really want to get into, and this is the last section. In any county which has not established a school attendance review board, if the school district determines that the available community resource cannot resolve the problem, or the truant or insubordinate pupil, or if the pupil or the pupil's parents or guardian or both have failed to respond to the directives of the school district or the services provided the school district pursuant to section 48260.6, may notify the district attorney or the probation officer or both of the county in which the school district is located, blah, blah, blah. But basically what they're saying is, okay, now you can go in there and lock them up, because we have determined, if the school district determines that the available community resources cannot resolve the problem. So that's teachers and different people sitting down saying, well, we don't think these resources are really help. Do you think that the resources are really? No, well, based on the way she's always yelling and the way she's, your child is going to jail, and so are you. Because this isn't based on any studies. It isn't based on a legal test. It's based on what the school district determines. And if they don't have anything to gauge it by, then they can determine whatever the hell they want to. So this is how Mrs. Peoples and Shayla's constitutional and their constitutional rights and due process were blocked and violated. Because whatever they determine is good is good. Now I want to show you, let me stop, do it again. I want to share why Shayla should have just been protected off the jump, because she qualified here for the 504. Now, Miss Peoples talked about the 504. Now, the 504, God damn it. I play peekaboo with this bar. Okay, no, I'm in the wrong place. Okay, the 504, and you could come back and read this just in case I forget to put any of this stuff. Let me go to the top, California Department of Education. So I'm in the legal background section right here, and I'm going to go exactly to where I want to go to, but I just want to explain to you that this is the Rehabilitation Act of 1973. It was amended in 1992, and these are the protections of people, who are sick, young adults with continued education, children, teens, whatever, who have, like chronic illnesses or disabilities. Okay, I'm going to go down to this part where it says this act. This act also requires that students be given a free, appropriate public education and regular education classes with necessary supplementary aids and services. With necessary, I'm Umar now, with necessary supplementary aids and services. Okay, and they did not do that. And also under this right here, I feel Shayla should have been granted an IEP. I don't know if I said this already, but I'm going to repeat it. She qualifies for an IEP because there will be learning gaps. And if I haven't said it before, just because you have ADHD or other designated disabilities doesn't mean that you, if you don't, this is just restricted for those students only. When you're in the hospital, you're chronically ill, you're chronically sick, your mother is concerned and focused on your well-being, your educational needs are suffering. You are behind, you're not up to the class, you know what I'm saying, unless they're giving you the work or whatever. But even still, you need an instructor to help you understand this information that you've been given. So with an IEP, which she should have been granted because she's chronically ill and spent a lot of times in the hospital, she could have had the therapist and the educators come directly to her to make sure that she was receiving her proper educational, the tools that she'll need, to go on to her next grade. What she did anyway, she did remarkable, but so what? It's like, she's entitled to that. She was entitled to get an IEP. And I think any student who is out of school with pain and constant, chronic illness all the time, and they miss a lot of days of school, should qualify for an IEP. So that way they can have the services come out to them, because other than that, how are they fulfilling these needs and how are they filling these gaps? I'm right now looking into how New York City is going to remedy my children. Because once the school was shut down, we were forced to do something completely different out of the box. And I feel like my children have suffered by being home and not in an educational environment. No fault of their own. So I'm definitely looking for remedy. My kids are in high school, you know, they're on their way out the door, but this was a block. This was a setback for them. And they should be tagged. All of the children who had to you know, in America, they should all be tagged. And at some point, either you get some extra points on the test or whatever. But you know, I'm rambling off, going off or whatever. But that's what I plan on doing, remedy the situation. I'm hoping that Miss Peoples plan on remedying the situation for her and Shayla as well. If this will be complicated, because Miss Harris is never gonna come out and publicly apologize to you. I doubt it. Because if she does that, she's acknowledging that she violated your constitutional rights, yours and your daughter's, and that she blocked your right as a parent to due process. You have the right to prove your damn case. And she blocked that. And how did she do that? Set up cameras, bring her out, throw her in the car, run her in the precinct, fingerprint her, and then get her out because they didn't have grounds to keep her or arrest her. Right? They had no grounds to do that. But this was all, as Ms. People said, a planned scheme to leverage phony Kamala Harris's career and boost her up, make her look, I'm tough on crime. These mothers, these black mothers ain't going, you know, send their kids to school. Look what I'm doing, y'all. I'm sending them to jail. I'm gonna make them pay fines. I'm gonna do, you know, anything I could do because I'm tough on crime too, just like good old Uncle Creepy Joe. So two, you know, birds of a feather flock together. Him and Kamala Harris deserve each other. They deserve each other. Their policies reflect the disgust that they feel for our community. They most certainly do. So let me see what I was going to next. I think I've talked about the penal code. I showed you. Let me stop this again because they like to do the stupidity. We talked about the penal code. And I explained to you that, you know, how it goes together, how you have to, they have to prove everything in alignment, and they also have to give you the right to gather your paperwork and, you know, get your defense together, and then they have to evaluate what your defense is. And I showed you all those penal codes and how they all have to flow together. Well, that none of that happened with Miss Peoples, so that's the violation, right? In hindsight, better news. Uh, this was posted. I hope this is shown. Let me stop and do it again because these people like to play games. So this is you know, great news. This was posted. The story was posted originally November 3rd, 2016, but I'm only gonna highlight the updated version, which was July 5th, 2019. Okay, that was last year. And it says parents of chronically ill children have less reason to fear that they will wind up before a district judge and threatened with jail time if their kids have extended or frequent absences from school. Governor Tom Wolf on Thursday signed into law the first overhaul of the state's truancy law and policies in over 2 decades, 20 years. This nonsense, destroying families. What a disgrace. Shout out to Governor Tom Wolf for doing this in 2019. Thank you. Because it makes sense to reach out to parents and not criminalize parents for things that you have no idea what's going on. All they had to do was take the time out to evaluate the paperwork that Miss Peoples turned in. And none of this had to happen. None of this had to happen. Miss Peoples could have been standing right side by side with Kamala Harris had she come out and apologized and maybe explain where she come from. Maybe she would have got an endorsement. Maybe she said, okay, well, I can forgive her because she acknowledged where she fell short and how she violated my rights. Maybe she could forgive her. I would sue her. But maybe Miss Peoples, you know, she seems like a nice, pleasant person. Maybe she would be forgiven. I wouldn't. But and let me just the hypocrisy. That's what I'm going to end this on, because like I said, I think I showed you the truancy law. I showed you what they expect of, for you to prove, or for the district to actually prove, in order for them to go in and, enforce this truancy law. So we did that. I showed you how Shayla should have been protected under the 504. I showed you that Governor Wolf has made the appropriate changes in the system, which this birdhead should have did. But it is what it is with her. Let me stop. I hate that I have to do this, but is what it is. So I'm going to read a tweet from old messy phony Kamala Harris. And it says, America will be judged harshly for this administration's neglect of the well-being of immigrant children. It's up to Congress to step in and fight for their health and safety. And I are leading our colleagues in a push to do that. Well, God bless the children, if she's leading it, because we saw how she did Shayla and MS.PEOPLES. So like I said, imagine if she had extended a tidbit of all this admiration she has for illegal immigrant children for an American Black girl, a citizen of this country. But instead, our citizenship didn't matter. Shayla's citizenship didn't matter, okay? Because even though she has that citizenship, she will still be looked at by Kamala Harris as inferior and undeserving of due process, undeserving. But we know who she feels is deserving of due process and health and safety. And it wasn't Shayla, nor was it MS.PEOPLES, whose lives she put a great amount of stress, separation from her child, from her son. At some point, MS.PEOPLES said she was separated from her families. So while Kamala works hard to restore other families, she neglects Black American families. So, I think that's pretty much it. That's a good way to end this right here. We have enough information on how she violated MS.PEOPLES and Shayla's constitutional rights, and she needs to be called out for that. So I'm Ray, guys. I like to bring awareness to conversation in hopes that it sparks change. And it's not over for Miss Harris. It's definitely not over for Miss Phony Kamala Harris. She has a lot to explain for. There are other stories that are going to be digged into from a legal perspective, as far as, as I go. I'm looking at it legally. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about this messy chick and how she's never going to be president, probably, or VP, unless pigs fly. So I'm out.